have enough confidence in the things that I know. I have enough wisdom to see the logic will be shown. I got one chance to show you what I got. I got one chance to show I'm confident or not. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, and the fools are running away. It's not what you say, it's only what you can prove. You better watch your step, you better mind your P's and Q's. You got one chance, show me what you got. You got one chance, show you confident or not. Don't get caught in the matrix of all of these fakers. Society's spinning, and I'm just here living on the ground. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, logically thinking, and the fools are running away. You're flipping over backwards to show me where you think you are. Your model dictates that you never see too far. Shrinking in the distance, you can do fuck all with an angle, and the fools are running away.
And we are live. Welcome, everybody. It is Wednesday, which is Trivium Day, but we are going to be going over the introduction to Western philosophy, Hillsdale College again. We are still going to go over the same one that we did yesterday because it went on for a lot longer than usual. So come on in, and we're going to still got to finish off the fourth lecture. Yeah, philosophers in the chat there. I will be putting this on the members only from here on in. I think it's only fair, so then we can have people who, you know, I don't want to be putting this out for to the general public, if you want, you know what I mean, to the trolls, because the trolls will just attack everyone, and this is definitely not for the trolls. So yeah, this will be on the members only from here on in. I'll put it out tomorrow. Yesterday's, is that how I did it last week? Yeah, I put it out yesterday, and then the one from today will then go out on Friday. I hope you can come into Discord. It's not that hard to do. I know it may be difficult for some people, and you may not do this, but I mean, Discord is an ideal platform for discussion, and you may have been put off by hearing what happens at other Discord servers, and you may have been put off by listening to the conversations that we have had on the Discord servers. Well, that was just to show everybody what it was like, or what it is like when you're going out there. This Discord server has been made to not have anything like any of those other servers. There's no muting, there's no shouting, there's no talking over people, there's no ridiculing anybody. It's just honest discussion on this server. That's all we ever asked for. So please come. Yeah, see, Mike Dornan's even coming. Got Constance in here. It's all kicking off. It's all starting to be how we want it to be. Let's say that. We're building
spicy.
Yeah. So as I'm going over this, has been a few things that have come back around. I've ended up trying to wrap this learning part up, and then I have to turn into the serious try thinking, right, in a bit. My lad's growing up. I have to change, and I have to grow up and start doing a bit more. So this is going to be much more serious for me in the upcoming months. But in order to wrap it up, I'm trying to take everybody through what brought me here. I think everybody has a story of how they got to this area and where they're at in their own personal journey. So I guess I'm trying to finish off by letting you guys know how I came in here. Now, there are earlier bits that we don't need to get into, but the major trigger for me was talking to a group of trolls on Twitter. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody else will have had this experience where you say something and then a horde of people will start coming on, bringing over, and they'll bring their friends over and they'll be asking you questions or whatever. Well, that's what I had, but within the realm of geometry. And I was talking to a guy called Jesse Kozlowski and his protege, a guy from Maine, the Maine surveyor he was called on Twitter. I think he still is on Twitter. I don't know whether the account's still active or not, or whether his character still goes on that. But those two guys, along with a guy called Soundly, who did a thing on a bridge. He took a picture of it. So I've been talking to them, and I needed to find some way. I've been chatting to them on Twitter, but I needed to find some way to get in there and ask them questions. So I Googled a way to find out. I thought that they were all into the flat earth thing. So I thought that's where I'll have to go and talk to them. So you find your way into this arena, bunny ears, wanting to ask a certain group of people questions. So I did. I found a load of people that I could talk to. And I was trying to find my way to get to Jesse Kozlowski to ask him questions that I got because of some people on Twitter that were saying ridiculous things. Well, I came in and I had to talk to Fight the Flat Earth, and he said even more ridiculous things. So I had to find Jesse Kozlowski. Now, let me get on this. I'm going to go. I'll just go through the agents bit, guys. So I don't know where this starts. I mean, it starts. I can't even remember where this is. It started ages ago. Well, this is. Did you see the line? I guess you did see that one. So the lines and there we go. I think 6th of March. When would that have been? What date is it today? Going for the weekend, aren't we? It's the 8th. Yeah, that should be about right, shouldn't it? Okie dokie. Right, so this is me talking to Casey, and Casey is the person claimed to be a Canadian maths teacher. And this is how Canadian maths teachers talk to the general public, I'm guessing. I said to her, so we agree. Level is a straight line on a horizontal plane, and the difference is that I say the straight line on the plane doesn't scale into a curve, whereas you imagine it does at some scale. Can you present an argument for your case? Because this is the realizing Euclid test. He's asking me to prove that a horizontal is a straight line on a plane. You're asking me to prove it. I said, well, we do actually have a test. So, Casey says, the argument for the globe, don't forget, this is what we've been after, arguments. We sort of, I'd say we specialise in that, so this sort of stuff. So the argument for the globe is the same as it always is. Observations and measurements show that vertical lines diverge from each other. Level ground is able to obscure the view of objects that are above it. Those observations require that the surface is curved. So this is a mathematics teacher using the visible realm, observations, and measurements to show that vertical lines diverge. And the fact that level ground is able to obscure the view of objects. All within the visible realm. Now, I don't know whether you've been following along with us with the philosophy.
Well, this is not an argument.
No.
Because obscuring vision may be produced by other causes. And it has to be proven that this obstruction is caused by the curve. And it hasn't been yet.
Well, this is the realm, isn't it? This is when you go to the trust optics, as far as they're talking about metaphysics and the visible realm, there's a trust issue. And looking at that particular area, it is what my son is doing. You know, what he's interested in is looking at that area, and there's not much trust involved because it changes. It does all sorts of weird things. It's the worst place to ever put an optical idea. And this lady is a mathematics teacher. Meant to be dealing with the mathematical realm, but living entirely within the visible realm. Something doesn't sound quite right to me within this. This one here. Horizontal is perpendicular to vertical. Vertical is determined by the direction things fall. Vertical is also perpendicular to the tangent for every point on a sphere. I'd say that's bullshit. The Euclidean definitions apply to a planar surface, not a spherical one. There are no contradictions.
Sorry. She cannot say on a sphere.
I know.
In argument, because if she's trying to prove the sphere, she cannot assume the sphere, but she's assuming the sphere.
No, she's also saying that vertical is also perpendicular to the tangent for every point on a sphere. That's a
Yeah,
lie.
but still, it is circular reasoning. She is concluding from the same premise. If the premise is that this is tangent to a sphere, this is premise. And outcome, conclusion is that this is a sphere.
No,
This is
she's
circular
talking about
reasoning.
no, she's talking about vertical being perpendicular to the tangent for every point on a sphere. No, I can get a sphere here in front of me, a ball, and vertical would not be perpendicular to the tangent for every point on that sphere.
Yes,
Ball.
I know your point.
Yeah.
I understand your point. But in her argumentation, there is circular reasoning anyway.
Mhm.
You don't need to check if this premise is true or not. It's just invalid, formally invalid, because she assumes sphere and this tangent, and therefore sphere. Because sphere, therefore sphere. This is circular reasoning. Whatever it is, she could even assume a cube or whatever. It's still circular reasoning. You cannot prove anything.
Yeah. And then you've got establishing a plane on the surface of the Earth is usually done over a short distance. Over short distances, the curve of the Earth is not significant enough to worry about. This is not a paradox either. I'd say it is a paradox, thinking that it is curving, but you don't need to worry about it. That's in an internal paradox, right? It's got to
That's a good way
be.
to put it, Beth.
Over short distances, the curve of the Earth is insignificant.
They always have to sprinkle in that vacuous statement every time.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if it is insignificant, so how they measured it? Because she said that this is measured.
Well, it's their paper, but it's not there. So I mean, it's there, but it's not there.
And what do they mean by insignificant?
Negligible. You don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's there.
Nominal.
Yeah, but if you're
Yeah.
building something straight, you're going to have to be concerned about
Nominal.
it, wouldn't you?
Nominal. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, a little bit.
It means in name only. There we go. I think. Oh, 7th of March. Here we go. How many? I can't remember how far back we had to go. Right, here we go. We'll go for this one anyway. Yeah, we've not got much time, have we? Roger Peachy, a farmer's boy, says only a flat earther would pretend spherical geometry doesn't exist. That's anybody that actually knows about the non-existence of a geometry that doesn't exist. Maybe. Casey says, a few questions for Bev, which I will. I'll answer them for you, Casey. 1. Can you put 2 points on the surface of a ball? Yes. Can you connect those 2 points along the surface? Yes. Is there a shortest distance between those 2 points? Yes. Wow, I knew Bev didn't have any balls, but I didn't realise he didn't even believe they exist. Don't know what that means. Crazy stuff. Casey says, what did he say right before that? What does he say you can't do in spherical geometry? Casey says, Bev believes, I like this, the way that they tell everybody else's beliefs to other people. There's loads of things that Bev believes that other people say that Bev believes, but I don't really. Bev believes that Euclid's Elements is a Bible of mathematics, and he accuses other people of dogmatic thinking. I don't think it's thinking, is it? Dogmatic. It's just reciting. I love how an unemployed wannabe YouTube personality thinks that he knows math better than mathematicians. Funnier still, he fancies himself a surveyor. I don't know where that comes from, but that's what Casey believes. I believe. Judge for yourself, or come in and ask me for yourself rather than that.
I think she's just realizing your arguments are valid, and that's the only way she can attack you.
Mm-hmm. Farmer's boy comes. He stopped calling himself that now, as it became abundantly clear he wasn't one or had ever been one. If anybody's unaware of what he's talking about there, he's talking about the fact that I've never said I am a surveyor. I've only ever said I've got a very basic surveying qualification certificate up on the wall. I got an A. Quite proud of it. But it is just a land surveying certificate. Nobody else has claimed anything else, ever. Apart from these people that make stuff up.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob. Good day. I'm trying to rush through these because I want to get to the stuff. So, Casey says, okay, Bev, I watched a few minutes. That was of us going over Casey stuff. Enough to see how disingenuous you were. First of all, I gave you the link to where that screenshot came from. I did not write these axioms myself. Here is the extended screenshot with analysis of each axiom. Give some reading there. And here is the link again. It's from St. Louis University, College of Arts and Sciences. You can extend a line to infinity on a sphere. That just means, in circles, the sphere an infinite number of times. That's
infinite looping.
Yeah.
This is not infinite extension.
That's the spherical equivalent to Euclid. But it means you can use that segment to make a circle on the sphere within the axioms that they're using, which is impossible. But that's the fantasy that you have to get in. As soon as you add one little contradiction, you explode the logic. That's what they've done here with spherical geometry. That's why it doesn't exist. So yes, the infinitely extended line is just wrapping round the same circle as many times as you want in their mind. Mathematically, anyway, at least. Might be impossible, but...
It means that you can produce a line just overlapping one point, in one point. This is nonsense.
And Kenny, this is Kenny, right? Kenny's, I think Kenny's been told off on Twitter for hateful conduct. So Kenny's the type of guy that gets suspended from Twitter for hateful conduct. So you know the sort of people we're talking about here. Kenny says, at 2:52 in his video, he's talking about the axioms you listed for spherical geometry and how they tell you what you can do inside Euclidean geometry. But you can't in spherical geometry because it doesn't exist. He speaks a bunch, but doesn't say much. And then Casey says, Casey's not watched it or anything, but Casey says, that sounds like a word salad just looking at your synopsis. So that's what they do. These mathematics teachers take the words of people who are likely to be suspended from Twitter for hateful conduct. And that's how it goes. And we were talking to Darren about it on Monday, so you can have a listen to that. Spherical equivalent to Euclid. And then Casey goes to this. Look, Bev, you don't seem to be understanding a damn thing. Here's a sphere with 2 points, A and B, marked on the surface. The shortest distance between those 2 points in Euclidean 3 space is the green string through the middle. The shortest distance between those two on the surface is the arc of the white string. In spherical geometry, the white line is defined as straight because it's a straight path from one point to the next, even though she's got the green one there that is straight. And she's allowing herself to say, well, the white one in another geometry, but I don't know what happens to the green one if you swap into another geometry. Well, like, how crazy is that? How can you do that? If anybody can let us know how you allow your mind to have two different geometries on the same thing. It requires the definition to be modified from the planar definition. You were quite willing to believe that Euclid had modified the definition of a surface between 2 and 3 dimensions. He didn't, by the way. Why wouldn't it be not reasonable to modify the definition of straight for surfaces that are not planar? Why not? Why can't you just modify the definition of straight for surfaces that aren't straight? They're not planar surfaces. This is the mathematics teacher from Canada. Modify the definition of straight. So continues. It exists in Euclidean space, yes. But now would be a good time to remind you that Euclid doesn't define horizontal and vertical. He refers to vertical angles, but that has nothing to do with what we refer to as vertical lines. I state, as always, horizontal and vertical are perpendicular. Remember the horizontal paradox from the beginning of our conversation? Because when I started having a conversation with Casey, I said, how do you personally deal with the horizontal paradox? To which Casey laughed at me and said, there isn't a paradox. But there is. It's a really bad one. But there's a lot of ECV involved in this. Blue Marble was posting on Twitter, right? So I say to Blue Marble, this is me, I say, your old antiquated globe has had its day. The dogma that comes with it is unacceptable to the modern day people. They want something that hasn't been taught from 2,500 years ago. That's even older than Euclid. And that's some old mathematics. The real globe is new and contradiction-free. There's no need to be troubled with fretting over having no proof of globe with the real globe. Now that I've invented Globject to help the Blue Marble scientist find epoche so that we can finally talk globe without the flat earth obsession taking over your thoughts and distracting us from the real conversations. I look forward to our future discussions about how it is 'tis globe. Blue Marble says, do you speak in tongues too, Bev? How about handling poisonous snakes? I bet that's part of the ritual too. Just be at peace with your auto-horizontal. I'm not too sure Blue's got in with that. But I'm saying that there's a conversation for us to have about the real globe, reality. That's where the conversation should be. All of this time we've been here trying to deal with people wanting to sign us up to this flat earth thing. And I'm not a flat earther, but they want to still sign me up to it. We just want to talk about reality. We're doing it here. These guys can't. Blue Marble included. Can't even talk about his own reality. And then Casey has put this right now. She says, hey, Bev, this guy nicely sums up our argument. I don't know whether I put it here. Right, now this is... let me move that over for you so you can see it. This is an argument that she's found on Quora. Because that's always the best place to find arguments if you're struggling. That's how you know people are struggling, because they start citing Quora for something. And it's 4 years ago, right? So Casey's obviously hit a stumbling block within a conversation with me and Googled it and come to a 4-year-old Quora thing. This guy is a senior software engineer, which is, well, you judge for yourself how qualified he is. Question is, what is mathematically possible, but in reality cannot be done? Question. Mathematics can only ever do this. 1. Take a collection of premises, brackets, axioms. 2. Using those axioms and unassailable logic. Yeah, it does say. Using those axioms and unassailable logic, show that something is or is not true. Brackets, theorems. 3. So each theorem is only true if all of the axioms are true and nobody screwed up the unassailable logic bit. So, for example, using Euclid's axioms, mathematics can prove conclusively that the 3 internal angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees, if Euclid's axioms are true. If you measure the angles of a gigantic triangle formed between 3 cities laying on 3 different continents, then you'll find that the angles do not add up to 180 degrees, and that's not because the math was wrong. It's because Euclid's axioms presume that you're working on a flat plane and not on the surface of a sphere. So, mathematics doesn't ever say this is possible. It only ever says this is possible if the following axioms are true. So, even if you can use mathematics to prove conclusively that it's possible to have a colony of humans living on Mars, that's proof only appears if the facts that you use to obtain your proof are all true. If they aren't, then all bets are off. What do you reckon to that? It's a good argument, right? It means that if ever you make a claim, you have to be able to prove it's true. But this one goes to axioms.
Yes, but the problem is with this spherical surface. Because, yes, Euclid is defining 2 2D figures in plane. So triangle is triangle because it is on plane. And everything works perfectly. Euclid didn't say that this something with 3 sides and 3 gigantic angles, that this is triangle.
It would be if there was only 3 points, though.
It would be some figure which Euclid would not name triangle.
Well, no. If all you've got is 3 points and you're measuring angles between the 3, then axiom or not, they are 3 coplanar points. They're going to form a triangle. Because
Yes.
Euclid wrote it down, won't make any scrap of difference within the axioms.
Yes, so the problem is with this surface of the sphere. Because
No, an assumed
Yes, it has-
surface of a sphere. There's nothing else.
Yes.
They're not actually measuring any of these things. They're just mentally. What they've done is they've said you can't assume Euclidean axioms, right? Although they're basic and fundamental to life and existence, right? They're saying you can't assume them, but Tis globe, right? We'll just put Tis globe there and then build everything around that. We'll never bother questioning Tis globe. We'll just
Yes,
replace all of
but-
these other axioms with Tis globe.
Yes, but these axioms are based on principles, or they are principles. And in these principles, it is that 3 points creates plane, and connection between these 3 points, they are straight lines, not curved lines. And therefore we are on the plane anyway. So there is no sphere there. So I don't know what's the problem.
Apart from the
it is-
sphere that they can't get out of their head. The assumed axiom that they're put there, Tis globe axiom. It's pretty obvious to me, right? We were having a discussion about this. If you have the globe in your mind and you hear this, you will automatically think globe. If you don't have the globe in your mind and you're thinking purely mathematically, the globe will never enter your mind.
Yes, but this guy, it was this Preachy or Peachy. So he said that it would not work on the surface of the sphere. But
Well,
these
not
axioms
this guy,
wo-
the one that she found, didn't he? Just said, if you measure the angles of a gigantic triangle formed between 3 cities, laying on 3 different continents, then you'll find that the angles do not add up to 180. I mean, he's never measured it. He doesn't know that.
but
like,
still,
You can't measure a triangle having more than 180 degrees. This guy doesn't know the basic foundations of mathematics.
but still measuring distance between 3 cities, it is assumed to be a straight line. So it has to be triangle. It has nothing to do with shape of the earth. It is
Apart
still
from
triangle.
Yeah, apart from people that have got this model that they just can't release, and it goes into the fundamental basics of this. So this is where I wanted to get to, right? Because this is where Casey's read that on Cura of some guy who's a software engineer with his imagination about that, imagining that's our argument. But we hadn't ever talked about triangles. We were talking about vertical and horizontal paradox. But somehow Casey has linked that to a triangle, a bit like Blue Marble when he measured his reciprocal zenith angles. that's associated with the triangle, but he couldn't see how it was associated with the triangle. But Casey can see how it's associated to the triangle. It's very weird. So Casey says, after showing me that, she says, so bottom line is this. Both Euclidean and non-Euclidean geometry exist in the world of mathematics. They both have a set of axioms that are logically true. The problem is figuring out which axioms yield consistent results in reality. It's a problem. The problem is, this is a problem for Casey, mathematics teacher, figuring out which axioms yield consistent results in reality. So the question isn't finding the proof of something. The question is working out which axioms you're going to be using. And then, go on.
No, axioms are the baseline. So you are starting from axioms to produce proof. So this would be premise.
Yeah, there's no logic needed for axioms. Axioms are statements of self-evident truth.
Yes.
You can't change them. There's no changing an axiom.
And by the way, when she said that we should check which axioms are linked to reality, we know that these axioms, which Euclid used in his geometry, they are linked to reality because we can show the axioms. For example, if we can use axiom that part is not a whole, we can just show it by multiple examples.
Well, you see, that's where you get, it's pretty self-evident, right, that two straight lines cannot enclose a space. That's the axiom that you go to, right?
Yes, of course.
That's the one, the tester. I'll save it for somebody who wants to, anybody that wants to have the axiom thing, that's the one you go for. Axiom number 10, I think, in my book anyway. And please remember, Steve Baker, senior software engineer from 2013 to present, what's that, 10 years? 10 years of a software engineer. He'll know about measuring angles between cities, if anybody would. And Casey's definitely going to trust some guy on Quora. Has anyone been to Quora? It's just,
I have no idea what it is.
it's like a website really for people asking stupid questions about ridiculous things, scientists and all sorts of stuff. Anybody can answer anything, really.
It's outstanding, Bev. And then I always like to go there. After I go there, I always like to fact check whatever I find on there on Wikipedia.
On Wikipedia, you know? There's normally some
Yes.
Wikipedia references.
Oh, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
So yeah, one of the most reliable sources for all sorts of argumentation. Robert Baker, Dr. Bob, says, where's that from? Not Twitter, right? So he's like realized it's not even a Twitter argument, right? It's not even up to standards of the Globe Twitter argument crowd. And Casey says Quora. It's like Quora. And that was the end of that thread. That's how to quickly end a thread, by putting some fucking ridiculous argument, telling everyone you've had to go to Quora. You can't even make up an argument of your own. And then here we go. I say, only one geometry describes reality, though. To have both is a contradiction, and mathematics does not have contradictions. This is your predicament. Me to Casey. Casey says, wrong, Bev. Mathematics teacher from Canada. Wrong, Bev. Both geometries have applications in reality. Measurements and observations over Earth's surfaces are not consistent with the surface being planar. The tests you devise would yield the same results in both geometries and are therefore not remotely useful. So Casey doesn't think that the realizing Euclid tests would be remotely useful because non-Euclidean geometry would explain the same thing in the same way.
No, this is nonsense. Seriously, I am slightly annoyed, but this lady.
It gets better.
Just bunch of nonsenses.
Right, this is where I came into it, right? I was on Twitter looking for trolls, and I found this group of people. And I was asking them questions. The surveyors, I was asking Jesse Kozlowski. I was asking the main surveyor questions. And this lady is the one that brought up and started doing models and doing the drawings, did the modus tollens and brought the parallel postulate in. You watched it all the other day. Went over it all. So I'm trying to find out what's going on. This is the sort of stuff I was getting. And I'm thinking, that can't be right. I need to go and talk to somebody about this. And this is where I am. I'm asking questions. I'm still asking questions. And I've still never had an answer. I've found the answers for myself by going to the first principles. And actually studying this stuff with the people around here. We've all gone through a journey to find the first principles of geometry and mathematics. It's a wonderful journey. And what it does is it gives you a sense that you know this is a load of bullshit. This woman that's pretending to be a mathematics teacher in schools, she might still be a mathematics teacher in schools. She's got no idea of mathematics. None at all. Just making up fantasy shit. I'd say this is as bad, to me, this is like Jesse Kozlowski, right? Now, Jesse Kozlowski might be a surveyor, but he's not confident enough to talk about it. He gets sacked as a surveyor because he's bullshitting. He's telling untruths. You're not allowed to do that. This is the same thing with Casey. If she is a teacher, she's not going to speak publicly about this because it's bullshit. She'd get called on it by a school, the teacher. It's obvious lies. You can't go around saying this sort of stuff. Casey's saying she's teaching children this. Both geometries have applications in reality. What you believe is a contradiction. This is what I believe. Because I say that there's no contradictions within mathematics. Casey says, what you believe is a contradiction is you trying to apply planar rules to spherical geometry. That's just stupid. They are two different geometries with different definitions and assumptions. They don't have to agree with each other. What's important is making observations that would yield different results in two geometries. If you set up your...
Can I just say something real quick here?
Go on.
Can we address the fact that her spherical geometry is purely two-dimensional?
We're trying to get round to that, right? We did do the 2D, 3D the other day, though. That's how we started off. Casey knows it's 2D, and I think I do get round to saying that in a bit. It's taken a bit longer. Look at 50 minutes. we're going to have to get round to the other one, but it might be a bit shorter. Okay, let me get through this quick as I can. That would yield different results in the two geometries. If you set up your water level test and measure the height of the water in the tube, the expectation is the same in both geometries. That's why you need to introduce a line of sight observation from the side. A water level's the same in both geometries. The water level exists in reality.
Yes,
There is not two geometries in reality. Why would it be any different? I don't understand what she's talking about. It's crazy, isn't it?
She's talking about the geometry in observation. We are not making geometry just observing something. We are using geometry to measure, but not for observation itself. So it would mean that if we use spherical geometry, we would see hump, and if we use Euclidean geometry, we would not see hump or whatever. It doesn't make any sense what she's saying. Just complete nonsense.
Like I say, I think it's because I introduced the horizontal paradox, and that always troubles them because it always lies there. They go to ECV, disregard it, but it keeps popping its head up. You can't get rid of it. So obviously at the top there, I've got the definition of perpendicular from Euclid. So I've replied to her with the definition of Euclid. Perpendicular, definition 10, book 1. But she says, Bev, you need to try thinking for once. That is the definition of perpendicular. Perpendicular is not a synonym to horizontal and vertical. Horizontal and vertical are a special case of perpendicular lines and are not defined by Euclid. They do not have a universal definition. As horizontal and vertical, a maths teacher in Canada is saying that horizontal and vertical do not have universal definitions.
They belong to this definition. And even she's saying that this is special case. Yes,
Yeah.
It is special case. Therefore, it is in that definition. This particular case. This is not special case in that sense that this is exemption. So it is just in that definition. It belongs to this definition because this orientation is not different from other orientations in a sense that we are talking about perpendicularity. So it is not different. It is just one of many orientations. And you can create infinite number of perpendicular lines. And one of them is horizontal and vertical. Simple.
Yeah, the idea of a synonym, right, is a word linking another word. Well, vertical and horizontal is 2 words. But perpendicular would be a synonym to those 2 words because horizontal and vertical are always perpendicular. It's exactly the same thing. Horizontal and vertical, perpendicular. Guaranteed. That if there ever were a synonym for 2 words, there would be like that. So that's just a blatant lie. Casey, a mathematics teacher from Canada. Now, I don't know if other mathematics teachers do this, but this is the geometric, I call it the geometric argument, right, of perpendicularity, horizontal, vertical. Paradoxes that are caused by a contradiction brought in by a model. This is why we say, get on the real globe. Much easier to deal with. You don't have any contradictions. Discover epoche with Globjic. So Casey says, on a plane, horizontal and vertical lines depend on the orientation of the viewer. In 3 dimensions, in 3 dimensions, vertical depends on the shape of the base surface. Once again, those are not contradictions. 2 different geometries are not required to define things the same way. Right, can we go over the first bit here? Look, on a plane, horizontal and vertical lines depend on the orientation of the viewer. Right,
No.
so we've got a viewer that is looking at horizontal and vertical lines on a plane. Is that 3D?
She's talking about perspective view if you are looking at this plane from an angle.
Okay, but that is 3D, right?
Yes.
Okay. There's no difference there. So when she then says in 3 dimensions, vertical depends on the shape of the base surface. She was talking about in 3 dimensions earlier on a plane, looking
Yes.
at on a plane. That's in 3 dimensions. But she's got a difference between the horizontal and vertical lines on the plane and you looking at it, and a difference between the vertical in 3 dimensions. That's Casey done that.
Yes.
Thank you very
So
much, Dad.
if you have a horizontal plane and 2 dimensions like X and Y, and you are looking from above, it means that she involves already vertical height there.
Mhm.
And it is dependent how high you are from that plane, and you have different angle of view. Therefore, these angles would be different in perspective only. But in mathematics, there is only orthographic view, which is considered as, let's say, objective. There is no angles of view in geometry.
Yeah.
It is always orthographic view. So there is no changing of position of the viewer here.
Yeah,
This is just-
optics doesn't come into geometry.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So this is just bullshit what she's talking about.
This mathematics teacher from Canada. Yeah, obviously talking bullshit. Second claim, right? In 3 dimensions, vertical depends on the shape of the base surface. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Vertical doesn't matter what the base of anything is. Completely disregard. Like you establish vertical by hanging a plumb bob. The plumb bob does not touch the base of anything. Completely independent of the base. False claim number 2 from a Canadian maths teacher. This fucking annoys me as well. Ridiculous. And then next claim. Once again, those are not contradictions. The 2 contradictions that she just talked about, 3D and 3D, looking at a plane, and verticals being dependent on the base of something magically. They're not contradictions to Casey, the mathematical teacher from Canada. And then says 2 different geometries are not required to define things the same way. I've only ever seen definitions of Euclid's geometry. I've never seen any other definitions of any other geometric system because there just aren't any. And then I've had this one before. Oh, sorry, yeah. Thank you, Gords. And Gords says, "'Tis globe." Of course. Thank you very much for that. Then she says this, two different geometries are not required to define things the same way. Back to this illustration. Each of these people have correctly drawn a pair of horizontal and vertical lines. If we extend those lines, they will not be horizontal and vertical for everyone. But they will still be perpendicular to each other. It's got kids sat round the desks.
No, they have the same reference.
They're in the
So
same
this-
plane, right? They're all lines on a horizontal plane.
Yep.
Yeah, there is no vertical there, Casey. So, again, a really bad misunderstanding, and I hope Casey isn't following through and giving this to the students in Casey's class, because it's fucking ridiculous. And I say, this is the one where I put out, Casey says, on a plane, horizontal and vertical lines depend on the orientation of the viewer. In three dimensions, vertical depends on the shape of the base of the surface, once again. And I say, can you spot the contradiction? Up here. Casey says, it's not a contradiction. It's two different things with two different sets of rules. Do the rules of a game of Monopoly contradict Clue? It's Casey talking about Euclidean geometry and non-Euclidean geometry, relating them to Monopoly and Clue.
Yes, it's like comparing geometry to, for example, music. They may be not linked, but we are talking about two geometries. So if it is geometry, so supposedly both of them, so it means that if they are contradicting each other, it means that they are contradicting in the same
Space.
manner. Yes. So if we are talking about straight lines, so in Euclidean geometry, straight line is defined as such, and in spherical geometry, the same line is different. And this is contradiction, that straight line is not straight, is straight, but it is curved. So it is different. And this is contradiction, blatant contradiction in the same thing. So it is contradictory. If she's talking about that, this is not contradictory. Yes, it is. Maybe she doesn't know what contradiction means.
I think mixologist. But I mean, if you're a mathematician, how do you go as a mathematician and not knowing about contradiction? Is it possible for a so-called mathematician to go through, I don't know, 4 or 5 years of university to get a degree in mathematics and then go to teach mathematics, maybe at high school, maybe elementary, I don't know, whatever level, right? But it's still teaching mathematics. How do you get that far to not know what a contradiction is? Should be base mathematical principles, surely. Shouldn't it?
It's likely, in my opinion.
I don't know. I mean, we've only gone through the basics, the first principles of trivium and that sort of stuff. But I would imagine that's got to go through mathematics. It's the whole system. Mathematics is logic. It's an extension of this logical process.
Guaranteed these people like Casey don't know critical thinking. They haven't been through a liberal arts program, or if they have, they didn't grasp what was being taught in that system.
Yeah.
Because if they did, they couldn't possibly be saying the things that they're saying. At least not ethically, which we will talk about when we get back to this the program.
Well, this is where we go, right? Casey says, Bev, this is what gets me most annoyed, because I obviously I know what I'm talking about and I know how to deal with this, but imagine it's just somebody else asking a question of what's going on. That doesn't sound right. Isn't that a contradiction? Well, Casey says, Bev, you have a very limited understanding of mathematics. I'm very qualified to tell you that. Anyone that thinks you are some kind of authority on the manner is even worse off than you are. I've never claimed to be an authority on this. Everybody has got their own ideas and we just discuss things, right? So I'm not claiming to be an authority. I'm not putting anybody down for any questions they ask, anything. Kenny says, where does it say horizontal and vertical are perpendicular? And where does it mention horizontal and vertical? Your ridiculous horizontal affliction is not the word of Euclid. It's your own fabrication. This is me talking about horizontal and vertical being perpendicular. So he says, where does it say horizontal and vertical are perpendicular? This is Kenny, the guy that's likely to get suspended from Twitter for hateful conduct. Bev, you thinking you have invented something is narcissistic and absolutely ridiculous. You're arguing for flatness and claiming not to be a flat earther. That is a contradiction. For me, for mentioning horizontal and vertical are perpendicular, this is Kenny, the guy that's likely to get suspended for hateful conduct. These the type of people that we're dealing with here. I say, this went on for quite a while, right? I've had a couple of days doing this. People say I don't do anything. I talk to trolls. I keep them away from normal people for a while. There are no contradictions on the real globe. The antiquated globe that you're trying to push is riddled with contradictions that you can't seem to see. My globe has no contradictions. The real globe has no contradictions. Even NASA agrees. I say to Casey. Casey says, you don't have a globe, Bev. You have a mental health issue. So this is what Casey thinks. The mathematics teacher from Canada, after being told that there are no contradictions on the real globe, like reality, the globe that we all live on, I'm saying there are no contradictions here. There can't be contradictions. They don't exist. Not on my globe, not on the real globe that we all live on. Casey says, you don't have a globe. You have a mental health issue. Imagine that, for thinking we live on a globe, on a real globe. Mathematics teachers calling me with mental health issues.
Yes, because their model requires globe with contradictions. So if you have your globe without contradictions, you are just heretic. It cannot be. It cannot be. Globe has to have contradictions.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's what I said. That's the old dogmatic globe that has the contradictions. This is the new globe, the real globe. We need to fight for the real globe now against the dogmatic globe believers. It's a fight. Mathematics teachers tell him we're mad for not having contradictions. There is no requirement for the two geometries to agree with one another. In fact, you can use those differences to figure out the nature of reality. You assume all of reality is governed by Euclidean geometry. That assumption is incorrect. It's also a ridiculous assumption to make. Can you imagine? Canadian mathematics teachers saying that it's a ridiculous assumption to make. For you assume that reality is governed by Euclidean geometry. Self-evident truths, axioms, stuff like that.
They work perfectly for over 2,000 years.
Yeah, I don't
And
think they've
they
ever
are
been
used in
falsified, have they?
practical.
Yeah.
Not falsified, and they are used by many different branches.
Newton?
Whatever.
Yeah. Everyone.
For example, in optics, whatever. It is used and it works.
Triangulation.
So
Mathematics.
There is application full of them. There is no, I didn't see any application of spherical geometry yet in anything.
Mathematics teachers telling us we're mental cases. And it seems like mathematics teachers doesn't really understand mathematics, but hey, funny how he reads into it that it isn't there and then ignores the definition that Euclid clearly lays out, like surfaces being two-dimensional. A face. Funnier still is how is defining the Earth based on the geometric axioms he has manipulated. This is Kenny, the guy that's likely to get banned from hateful conduct. Funnier still is how he is defining the Earth based on the geometric axioms he has manipulated. I've not mentioned Earth once in any of this. Rather than the Earth itself. Intellectual honesty at its peak. Crazy face. Earth existed before Euclid. I don't believe it cared about his axioms. They don't really have an understanding like I do. I don't know. I don't think they're getting geometry for what it is. I say reality is reality. The axioms are universal. Casey says, Bev, the axioms are not universal. See, it's one of these things that I can do. I can say something and they are guaranteed to say, no, not that. So I say, reality is reality. The axioms are universal. Casey says, Bev, the axioms are not universal. They assume a planar surface. They don't apply to surfaces that are not planar. Says Casey.
Sorry, but 3 points in space, they create plane. They don't create curved surface. They create plane. So this is axiomatic. So and universal at the same time. So again, she's just saying bullshit.
He's a mathematics teacher from Canada, though. You know, they may teach different things in Canada. You know, you may not be up to date with this new modern mathematics that they get taught. Have you thought about that?
I don't know. For me, this is annoying. Very, very
Yeah.
annoying.
It's like you go into sophistry, right? That's okay. Politics, religion. Yeah, it's to be expected. Bit of flat earth debate, right? Bit of sophistry. Within geometry, within the very axioms of geometry, you're practicing sophistry. It's a definite no-no. But I'm guessing the population has been dumbed down so much. They're not aware of fundamental axioms within geometry, mathematics, logic. If there's a need for logic, this shows you why there is a need for it. Because people on the internet will pretend they're mathematics teachers. They may well be mathematics teachers, right? In schools, or she may even be a head of mathematics at a university. It wouldn't make any difference. This lady is model afflicted, and nothing you could say to this lady would ever make any difference. She wouldn't be able to see the basic arguments that's being led out, explaining how fundamental the axioms are, because she's just ridden with a model. Flat Earth Society's got hold of this woman, maths teacher. She can't not think about a model, even to the expense of actual axioms, mathematical foundational axioms of mathematics. And here we go. Roger Peachy, the farmer's boy, he liked that. Farmer's boy took a look at that and said, oh, the axioms are not universal, Bev. Oh, I'll give that a thumbs up. That's a good one. So a farmer's boy agreed with that statement. Euclid and the geometry that we've been over is fundamental to mathematics. You can't get away from it. Once we've done this philosophy course, we will go and do the Euclid course, because that teaches people way more. I've been trying to pass it on, and unless you get involved with this, it's going to be a bit hard for you to work through it, because there's a logic, there's a dialectic, there's a rhetoric needed to be able to explain how simple and basic this sort of stuff is. And guaranteed, there are fundamental geometric mathematical truths that you've never been taught in schools at all. It's not nobody's fault. It doesn't make you stupid. It doesn't make you ignorant. Well, I suppose you could call and say you are ignorant of these fundamentals, but you'll already know them. They're natural. They're a logical thing. But understanding the principles will give you a better insight into what's actually going on, and show you that mathematics isn't this thing for people in universities and stuff. This mathematics, its core fundamentals, is for everyone. It's simple logic. It derives itself. It flows naturally from one thing to the next. It builds upon itself. These people are so afflicted by a model, can't see the beauty of reality. They can't see what is. And that's sad in 2023. That's why everybody should just get on the real globe. Let's just start talking about reality, because there's some wonders out there. This is Kenny again, the guy that's likely to be suspended for hateful conduct. Mainly just name calling, I think. That is what hateful conduct's classed as on Twitter. Bev, let's clarify this real quick. Earth doesn't give a fuck about the axioms in Euclidean geometry. The Earth isn't suddenly going to flatten out after 4.5 billion years because Euclid didn't develop spherical geometry. It's time you accept that. It's not changing. I mean, this does sound like dogma. He's shouting at me. He's preaching at me. And
Mike is talking about billion years. So
Yeah.
another assumption.
Yeah, 45 billion years. I mean, he knows that, and he knows that Euclid didn't make spherical geometry. Because spherical geometry is not Euclidean. So he does really well there, working that out. It's like a modern-day sleuth, is Kenny. And again, farmer's boy, typical farmer's boy, comes along at the side and says, denialist's going to keep denying. And Kenny says, what is the shape of your globe, Bev? Topography aside, what do you propose the shape to be? I say, you measure reality and find 'tis globe. Everyone knows this. All measurements prove globe. It's the first premise in Globgic. And Casey says, measured reality does not comport to Euclid's axioms. It does agree with spherical geometry. So, Euclid's axioms are all about the straight line. And when we measure stuff in reality, we measure the straight line. But Casey seems to think it doesn't comport to Euclid's axioms. This is a Canadian maths teacher. Thinking when you measure reality, you can then say, oh, that doesn't work with Euclid. Must be spherical. So therefore, it is globe. Who's that?
It was Rob just saying, I hope she ain't teaching math to my children.
Straight lines can't be straight. I don't get it. Triangles must have more than 180 degrees or less. They can't have 180 degrees. I don't know what she's talking about. It's crazy, this stuff. This get taught in Canada. And you best check with your kids. Make sure you're not being taught. My kids have left school now. Guys, he's at college doing art, so I know it's not really much. But I mean, I don't know. What's going on in the school system? This seriously needs looking into. Kenny says, Bev, either produce an answer or shut your mouth. Right, so go back to this. This might be why Kenny's got done for harassment and hateful conduct. Because Kenny says, what is the shape of your globe, Bev? Topography aside, what do you propose the shape to be? And I say, you measure reality and find 'tis globe. Everybody knows this. All measurements prove globe. It's the first premise in Globgic. And Kenny's reply is, Bev, either produce an answer or shut your mouth and stop trying to discredit others. If you are not man enough to own your own ideas, you have no right to criticize others. State your model or be forever labelled a coward and a fraud. Your choice. It's a bit strong, forceful on Twitter as well. Kenny's a bit of a globe warrior, I think. I say I'm a real globe knower. I have proof of globe in reality. I don't wish to join. Don't wish to join your flat earth society, probably, or something like that.
I love you. They're all crazy.
Yeah, Casey, mathematics teacher, says, the globe is reality. And yes, everyone knows it. I'm at peace with reality, Bev. What I'm not at peace with is you trying to preach mathematics. So I say, stating facts about the real globe is not preaching. Horizontal and vertical are perpendicular. Everything in reality is 3D, an object. Reality is 'tis globe. All proofs in mathematics prove 'tis globe. Come and chat about it. I'm up for conversations about globe. And then Casey says, that's the ramblings of someone is on full mental health crisis. Or someone who thinks if he uses enough words, he can dupe some morons into thinking he's intelligent in order to make a living grifting.
Oh, wow.
And Kenny says, does he not sound a bit like a cultist preaching to his followers? It's a bit disturbing. Casey says it does, which goes along with the grifting idea. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm grifting. Thank you very much, Gord's, for the grift. I hope you feel you got your money's worth out of it.
That smacks of the Twitter warriors that were accusing you of all those unnatural and horrible acts and implying that you were abusing your children.
Right,
not implying, outright stating that you were a child abuser.
Says if there's one thing that we can say for certain is that given the premise, 'tis globe, we can prove 'tis globe. So the natural conclusion is that it has to be 'tis globe. This guy's trying to convert me away from globe. And Kenny says, I have proof you're a coward and don't have the confidence to publicly state your own beliefs. This is sad. A grown man embarrassed to call himself a flat earther. And Kenny then says, you sound like an idiot, preacher boy. Grow up. And I say, oh, Globjic is preaching. Thanks for your help. So from now on, anybody reciting any Globjic shall henceforth be called preaching. So if you are ever performing Globjic to anybody, you can be called a preacher, preaching Globjic, in order to convince people of the real globe.
Okay, so when you started to speak their language with them, they are very triggered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they are projecting what they are doing for years on you. So this is funny.
It's good, isn't it?
Yes, it is good.
It is, Bev. You're a better globe preacher than they ever were.
Yeah, real globe. I'm going to convert more people than they are. Because they keep saying you're grifting and off the flat earthers. And I'm thinking, well, there definitely seems to be a lot more money in globe. So if we can convert some more globers to the real globe, right? I mean, who wants the old dogmatic globe? That's fucking so 2020, isn't it? It's 2023 now. I mean, things have moved on.
Brilliant.
Modern day globism. Kenny says, where does Euclid state horizontal and vertical are always perpendicular in every instance, everywhere, simultaneously? Where does anyone other than you state that? Anywhere, ever? I'll state that again. Kenny, the guy that's likely to get banned from Twitter for hateful conduct, says, where does Euclid state horizontal and vertical are always perpendicular in every instance, everywhere, simultaneously? Where does anyone other than you state that? Just me. There's only me that ever states that, apparently.
I would say that real globe dictates that vertical and horizontal are perpendicular.
Always, in every instance,
yes,
everywhere, simultaneously.
So your globe dictates that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you are saying that.
Yeah, the real globe. I mean, that's what happens. And I say, are you arguing against horizontal and vertical being perpendicular? And rather than Kenny answering, Casey had to come to his rescue, obviously, and said, nope, nobody is arguing against that. Apart from Kenny, the one I was replying to. Or was Kenny not arguing against it? Kenny says, where does Euclid state horizontal and vertical are always perpendicular? In every instance, everywhere, simultaneously. Where does anyone other than you state that anywhere, ever? I do, and paper, I think you do as well, and anybody else?
Raising my hand.
Yeah, there's another one. Yeah, I mean, quite a lot of people.
I see that hand, brother.
And Casey even comes and says, actually, nobody's arguing against that.
So
just Kenny.
So nobody means that Euclid didn't. So because nobody.
Yeah.
So Euclid didn't object against perpendicularity between vertical and horizontal.
Most assuredly never. Yeah. No black swan.
It seems like the only odd one out here is Kenny that asked the original question. That's a shame, isn't it? That he can't even back up his own argument and he has to get help by a mathematics teacher that's trying her hardest to rid herself of all of the known axioms of Euclid. She can't get rid of the fact that horizontal and vertical are universally perpendicular everywhere, simultaneously. Nobody's arguing against that. Horizontal is indeed perpendicular to vertical, but vertical is a local condition. I always like the buts. But vertical is a local condition. On a globe and in reality, verticals diverge from one another. So one's vertical horizontal will not be horizontal to another's vertical. Do you want me to read that again?
No, she's just talking about Bunck model. This is not right. On real model, they are always perpendicular.
Yes.
Only on false model, they diverge.
Yeah, so, but did you get the last sentence there? It states, so one's vertical horizontal will not be horizontal to others' verticals. I'm probably going to have to write that down into Globgic. Because if you want to silence a room, go into a room and state that you're a mathematics teacher and just say, so one's vertical horizontal will not be horizontal to others' verticals. Ha 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 ha. What does it mean? Absolutely nothing. Completely vacuous statement. Means nothing. So one's vertical horizontal. What's that? Mathematics teacher. Canadian mathematics teacher. You know, the vertical's horizontal. And that vertical's horizontal won't be horizontal to others' verticals.
Hang on, Bev. Can I say something real quick?
Go on.
You hear me?
Yeah?
Yep.
Can we maybe stop saying she's from Canada? Because she's starting to make Canadians look real dumb.
She's Canadian school
I happen
teacher.
to be from Canada. I don't think Canadians are all that dumb. Just pull on your leg, don't worry.
Just wait for a couple of generations. If you've got teachers like this, I wouldn't worry about it. We're doomed if we've got teachers like this. So one's vertical horizontal will not be horizontal to other verticals.
And this vertical would be not vertical then.
Now we go back to FE dogma. Whilst I'm doing this with Canadian school teachers, you think I do nothing all day. I'm also having a discussion with FE dogma about the twin tangent paradox. It's been going on for quite a long time. FE dogma says, when did I ever say that straight lines change over distance? Since you deny your own observed evidence with Blackpool Tower, you should take a refresher course in geometry and surveying, says the dogmatic FE guy. But yes, the real globe is that spherical shaped, has no contradictions. But yes, the real globe that is spherical shaped has no contradictions. The fact that horizontal vertical I see in Thailand is in a different orientation than the horizontal vertical you see in Britain is not a contradiction. The orientations being different orientations. Makes complete sense, right? Everybody on with that one? The fact, because the way he starts it off with like the fact that the horizontal vertical I see in Thailand is in a different orientation than the horizontal vertical you see in Britain. Were you aware of that? But it sounds like the same fucking orientation to me, horizontal and vertical. What's the difference? What's he talking about?
It means that at least one of them, they are not vertical and horizontal.
Well, if there's no contradiction,
it is contradiction.
They are the same orientation, because it would definitely be a contradiction to say that an orientation was different, but calling the orientation the same.
Horizontal is one orientation, not many different orientations.
He says,
for me at least,
yeah.
At real globe.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, all we can talk about here is the real globe. Until we get one of the old dogmatic, antiquated globe guys to come in and talk about their model, which I don't think we will. They're a bit scared about it. I think they feel intimidated by the real globe myself. Maybe it might be the name when you compare that to the antiquated, dogmatic globe of old versus the real globe. It just sounds a lot stronger, doesn't it?
Real and modern globe.
Yeah, modern day real globe. It's got its own logic and everything. Why do you imagine that reality is a contradiction? I don't. The only contradiction is that your model of level is a straight line on a horizontal plane does not match what we see in reality. Why do you deny the reality that we all observe? They're all about observations and looking at things, aren't they? They're very visual. I'm more tangible, practical. Anyway, I say horizontal and vertical don't change orientation. They will always be in the horizontal and vertical orientations. Level is a straight line on a horizontal plane, is a provable fact, and proves the real globe. Your dogmatic, flat earth, antiquated model is out of date and built on contradictions. There are no contradictions on the real globe. And then I put the link to the onthelevel.live. It is globe site, if you want to get into it. we're getting to the end of these now here. Now, I've got rid of Wally from Twitter. It's so much better not having Wally around. Luckily, he's not around here tonight as well. So Wally's done this thing and he's called it Bev's rocket paradox. I'm not into other men's rockets and discussing rockets with people. It's just not my thing. I don't know. I just don't get into it. So, Wally puts this meme up here and he's got Bev's rocket paradox and something about a rocket or whatever. And then he's got underneath it is the bit that you have to look at here, right? It says Wally's no paradox reality. And it says line of sight is straight. And this blue one here says line of sight. And then it says horizontal is dropping away following Earth curvature. And then he's got this black line here. I think we've been over this before. But it says horizontal all the way. Now, I can't get it out of my head. He's drawn a bent horizontal. In what he says, Wally's no paradox reality. And in Wally's no paradox reality, he's got a bent horizontal. I can't even consider a rocket or anything in this particular situation. It's got nothing to do with anything else other than the fact that Wally's drawn a meme that says think logically at the bottom of it. He's got Wally's no paradox reality. And then he's got a bent horizontal. Now, this is Wally. He's part of the wolf pack with Wolfie and Ruhif. And they've got this guy, Rogue. He's got to be. This is a Rogue Globe agent. Probably Flat Earth, I'd say, because does he want the globe to look ridiculous? Does he? I think he's helping us, really, right? Because this is the dogmatic globe. He wants people to move over to the real globe. I'm pretty sure he's helping us in his own way, moving people over.
It's definitely not real globe, because on the real globe we have a straight line horizontal.
I think everybody knows that horizontal is a straight line, right? And the fact that level is a straight line on a horizontal plane is provable, goes to show that the real globe at least has provable facts. I mean, it may be a little bit contradictory for you to imagine it's a globe, knowing that level is a straight line on a horizontal plane, but just be safe in your knowledge that it is globe, right? Go with the proofs of reality and just be safe in the knowledge that that proves it's globe, real globe. So Wally says, I have facts. Now I've explained that for you. And I say, Wally is posting his stolen concept proofs of globe. It says if globe, but it's a spell check. Wally says, can't be disputed. You can't dispute this, says Wally. What he means is he'll just ignore anything you ever say about it. And everybody else sticks up for Wally. The amount of white knights that won't tell Wally that he's drawn a bent horizontal on a fucking picture that says Wally's no paradox reality. I say bent horizontal too. I'll get back to Kenny in a bit. Wally says, BS, Bev. No stolen concepts here, with a bent horizontal in his picture. It says no paradox reality. Wally, this is the bit here you get here. Bent horizontal is observed in reality. Wally, that's a claim. He put it in big capital letters as well. Bent horizontal is observed in reality, states Wally. The dogmatic globe, you have to go along with this. There's no getting around it. I've asked a few people. Everybody that I've asked have supported Wally in this meme. So therefore, this is part of the globe dogma. I don't know whether people were aware of it.
Why is he calling something that's bent horizontal?
It's dogmatic, right? This is Wally.
In the dogmatic globe, I get it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because you know that they said, like, we say level is horizontal and it's provable. Well, they have to bend them, don't they? They're not allowed to have straight lines. They can't have parallel lines. So you can't have straight lines. So everything has to bend.
And by the way, this line of sight is straight line, and it is outside of spherical geometry. So it shouldn't be used here.
Mm-hmm.
And he is looking through dogmatic glasses on his globe. This is not good. He should take it really. We are talking about real globe, not dogmatic globe.
I do say at the bottom here, I say, you can't have a bent horizontal without a dogmatic globe model. It's a prerequisite, right? There would be no need for Wally to bend horizontal if there were no dogmatic globe model. Therefore, Wally bending a horizontal is proof of the dogmatic globe model. I can sort a proof for him to help him out, but I mean, it's a really hard sell, isn't it? Selling bent horizontals.
It's antiquated.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be there now in 2023. No.
You've got to be a really good, skilled sophist to be able to sell a bent horizontal. And Wally definitely isn't that, right? That's not Wally. So I say, it proves the globe. And Wally says at the bottom, he agrees, it proves the globe. So this, that Wally's put here, bent horizontal, observed in reality, it proved the globe. There's, if you ever needed it, I mean, it's Wally. You know Wally, he's a leading figure in the dogmatic globe model. He's a leading light in the dogmatic globe model. Okay. Wow, how long did that take? Nearly fucking 2 hours. Okay. That was me going over that. Obviously, I've been doing a lot of chatting, and there is more. Going out and talking to people I think it's what I do best, but I'm not really too keen on talking to nutcases and people that say ridiculous things. They go about the elements wrong, the axioms, the first principles of reality, really, because that's what Euclid's elements are. This geometry is fundamental to reality. That these things aren't changing. The idea of what a straight line is goes more to the core of mathematics than you realize. Pi being the relationship of the circumference to the diameter of a circle. The diameter is the straight line. The radius is a straight line. You can't start bending these things because you're bending some sort of geometry. It's really hard to even get the concept of what they're talking about. But this is where they have to go. This is where people really, in order to get into this arena within this discussion, especially anything to do with shape, you should really have a fundamental understanding of your axioms, first principles. Really, just find a way to discuss the grammar, the terminology, how the precise you have to be within your language to learn to discuss these things, this is the place to do it on the level Discord. And we're going to go into, yeah, I have been going a bit long. We are going to go into the Hillsdale course now, I think. So I'll end this one and we are going to go into the Discord live. I will record it. I'll put it out as a members only. I'll put the yesterday's one out midday tomorrow. And then I'll put this one out. Won't be as much longer, I think. Be a bit of a shorter one tonight anyway. So thanks for listening. I'm not going to do a rollout song. I'm just going to go. So yeah, come into Discord on the level. Click the link. And we're going to go and do the Hillsdale course right now. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much. And join us tomorrow. We'll have some Euclid stuff to be going over. Thank you very much.